What is up? It's your boy Jonni Shreve. I have BB Promos and Tell Like It Is. Welcome back to a podcast Uncut. Want to welcome you guys, introduce you to the man himself, Jordan Shallow, the muscle doc, chiropractor, strength conditioning coach, world-class powerlifter, entrepreneur.
Hey.
Got it in there. So welcome. Appreciate you coming on the channel. I know a lot of people will really like this podcast. So we're just going to talk freely and get your story and let everybody know who you are. So let's just chat, man. Who are you? Where are you from? I know you're from, but
So I mean, I'm from out east originally. So I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland. I didn't spend much time there, but all my family is Newfies. So that's like the only reason I can understand like Frank McGrath is he sounds like most of my relatives. So yeah, I'm from out east originally. I most of my formative years spent in Windsor, Ontario, Rose City, throwing up for the Dub 519.
Yes,
Get at me.
Let's go.
Yeah, I grew up in Windsor. I did part of my undergrad at Windsor, part of my undergrad at U of T, and then I went to Chiro school out in just south of San Francisco, California. So I did Chiro school there for 4 years. I worked in the corporate sector. I worked for Apple as their in-house chiropractor at their headquarters in Cupertino. I started 2 practices, one in Mountain View, one in Dublin. So my first practice was out of Boss Barbell Club in Mountain View, California, under Dan Green. It's pretty good powerlifter. Some would argue one of the best. So Dan actually got me into powerlifting competitively. Opened up my second practice at Combat Sports Academy. So CSA is a pretty prominent fight camp for UFC fighters. I think actually one of the owners has been on Rogan a handful of times. And then simultaneously, I took a role as the strength and conditioning coach at Stanford University for the men's and women's rugby team 7s and 11s.
Wow.
So then I ditched the Apple gig. It just became too much running 2 practices and all that. I started an online education company in 2015, just upon graduating school. So that's Prescript or prescript.com. So started that in 2015 alongside a podcast that we have called RX Radio. So we've been running that for 6-7 years now. We're about 300 episodes in on weekly releases. And so I was doing the podcast, was getting my feet wet as an entrepreneur, as it were, with Prescript, working as a strength coach at Stanford and kind of running 2 practices out of the East Bay and the Silicon Valley. So honestly, powerlifting was a big catalyst from there. Because I had like a little bit of like an educational background, I was putting out shit on Instagram, really just like little short videos, just about training principles, anatomy and biomechanics and all that. And then I did my first powerlifting meet June 2015.
Numbers for the people.
So my first meet, I squatted. What did I squat? 650, benched 417 and deadlifted 666 at 242 pounds, 110 kilos. So it was funny because I was training with like Dan Green, Andrew Herbert, Christy Hawkins, Emily Hu. So every one of my training partners has world records, like multiple world records. So I'm walking up to this meet in Santa Cruz, like I'm going to get dusted. And then Dan was like, "You're going to win this thing running away. Are you joking me?" Like, I was like, "Oh." So I had a good first showing. I totaled 17 something in my first meet, and then got an invite to Reebok Record Breakers, my second meet, which was like kind of a big deal. And then after that, I got invited to compete at the Arnold's in Australia, and that was kind of what kicked off like the education stuff for me. They're like, "Look, we can't pay you, but we have like gyms that are interested in like hosting a seminar." And at that point, seminars weren't even on my radar. I remember getting the call from this guy named Marcus Markopoulos, who like put on the event, and I don't think I slept from that day forward because I was like, I need to put together a seminar, and every waking minute and it was like a 3-hour seminar. Now I do 3, 4, or 5 days straight, 8 hours a day, like it's nothing. But went over in March, would have been 2017, and did 3 seminars and competed. And then it's just sort of been, I feel like I've been on the road ever since. So that was kind of like the big catalyst. And I left California about 4 years ago. And for the better part of 3.5 years, the longest I spent in one city was 11 days. And I was just traveling. No, legit. I was completely homeless, like just drifting, talking about lifting weights, lifting some weights. But
Yeah.
that's the long and short of it, really.
Yeah. The Coles notes. You're in Dubai right now, right?
Yep.
So this is now your home for now, or for
Yeah, be
good
home base for this year. Yeah, we're
for this
already
year.
talking potentially California as a home base next year. My business partner
Yeah.
with Prescript is
Yeah.
still out in the Bay Area. We went to school together.
Oh, dope.
So we're
Cool.
thinking about with where the business is, it might make sense for us to be in the same country, time
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be home base for this year, but a ton of travel in the books. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a training camp putting in 20 days in LA. So it's
Amazing.
my first training camp. So I've been, I'm always a student. So what I mean, so I'm always trying to, get myself, to where you're at, to be honest. Like you have the dream career in a sense that it's where I want. It's like what I like to do. Like I love strength and conditioning. I like, coaching. I love that aspect. And I know there's a bunch of people out there that need people like yourself to give all that, wealth and knowledge. So I went down to Cali for a collaboration, and then I went to a gym, Flex Gym. Mike Van Wyck, referred me to him, and it was just one thing after the next. I'm like, fill up a training camp, and then so I'm gonna do my first one down there. So it's it's something that I see you doing. I'm just like, it's what I want to do. You know what I mean? It's like the dream job in my world. So I don't know. I mean, you're at Rears trying to determine if you're an entrepreneur, and I'm like, you are the definition of an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah, my job is just all the shit. That's what's left when I stop doing all the things I didn't want to do. Like that's what I tell people. Like I don't know what my job is, because it's so multifaceted. Like
Yeah.
this could easily be considered quote unquote work at where like whatever my position is with the companies or whatever. But it's no 2 days are the same, and I try and do as little of the shit that I don't like to do as possible. So whatever's left is like it's training, it's like meeting people, it's putting together these things. I sit around and I think a lot, and then I write some of that shit down, and then maybe throw some of it out, and then I say some of it on the internet, and I say some of it in seminars, and like, okay, yeah, this is sound. But yeah, man, it's fun. I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess I kind of do, man. Like when I was a kid, it was Poliquin, right? Like that was really, I was 15. I wasn't even into strength conditioning. I wanted to be like a lawyer. I got it. I first started studying history and political science because I was like, I'll either be a history professor or I'll go into law school after I get like an undergrad and master's.
Yeah.
And then halfway through, I was like, I can't do this. I can't be with these people, man.
Right.
I literally, well, here's a Windsor reference for you. I was going to Devonshire Mall to go see a movie, and I was walking through the mall, and it was like, I don't know, Boathouse. Love was Boathouse a store. Boathouse was a store. I got my the Windsor wife holding it down. And I was walking by. There was that like, I forget what it's called. Warhammer may have been the game.
Yeah.
Like all the little figurines that like you painted. Yeah, I think it was like Warhammer game.
Or Warcraft. I don't know what it is. I don't know these.
I think Warcraft was a computer one.
Yeah.
I think like War. Anyways, doesn't matter. And I remember walking by with like a couple of buddies that I would train with all the time. And I was 2 years into my history program at U Windsor, and like we were walking by this war, and whatever, man, whatever you're into, it's all good. But I literally remember like a bunch of guys started like waving at me and like calling me into the store. And I was with like a couple buddies from the gym. We are going to see a movie, and they're like, "You know those kids?" And I looked and I was like, that is half of my history program is in that store right now. It's like, I can't do this for the rest of my life, man. My friends are meatballs. And like, they were super nice kids, but it's like, I'm not going to paint figurines. Like, I got to get out of this. So I literally was like, I need to do something else. So that I transferred to U of T and was done 2 years later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went to St. Mary's. I did criminology, sociology, double major, and not using it at all.
But you are though. I mean, and that's the thing. Like your ability, like your attrition, like how much bullshit you got to go through at the post-secondary level. Yeah. Regardless of what, like, double major. Yeah. Like there's so much shit you don't want to do. Yeah. That you just have to do, and you do it. And that's like early days in business. And I'm lucky now to be at the point where I don't have to do the shit I don't want to do for the most part. But it's like, that's the only way you can get to a point in your business where you don't have to do the shit you don't want to do, is 100%. If you've paid a bunch of money to do a bunch of shit you don't want to do. Like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, okay. So when you start strength conditioning, because you started would you do chiropractic practice? Where you
Palmer.
Palmer.
Palmer West.
And then you did some stuff at Stanford, or?
So I was a strength coach at Stanford.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's dope. We know obviously OJ Togway there and whatnot, but you were definitely not there when he was
Gangster.
there. Were you there?
No,
No, he
no.
was already
OJ
playing in
would
the
have
league.
been, yeah, he would have been out
How
by
old?
the time.
How old are you?
31.
Man, you're young.
I got city miles on me, dog.
Yeah.
City miles.
Yeah. You got the world travel miles. So
Yeah,
you
dude.
so as soon as like chiropractic, then you're like strength and conditioning. So where does that come into play? Like I mean like and then tell me like how like because I like how you have that practice in strength and conditioning. I find like is like I think having strength and conditioning background is good, but then having that extra piece there is just like makes you a lot more I don't know like cerebral when it comes to that. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so when I was doing my undergrad, I did some work at the Ontario Olympic Training Facility. So the OTC in Ontario, just on like Eglinton. That's what it was, back on Eglinton.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got my feet wet there. My sister was the swim coach at Queen's University when she was doing her master's there. So my sister was like very accomplished swimmer. She was a 4-year captain, Division I down in North Carolina. She went to Olympic trials for Canada for the Beijing Olympics. So she just out of pure vocation was just like no one was wanted to coach the Queen's swim team at the time. So I got my hand like kind of my hands dirty helping her out with like some programming around swimming when I was still finishing up my undergrad. And I was just always interested. Like I mentioned Poliquin earlier, like when I was 15, I read a Poliquin article and I was like, oh, like there's levels to this. Like there's depth and like it's more than just putting on muscle. So I always had an interest. I was always my extracurricular reading was as much as I could read about training. And then when I went out to California, it's funny, I started volunteering. I met this dude who in my building, he also had a German Shepherd. And I had a German Shepherd at the time, and we are just like, "Hey, do you want to be friends?" It was like being like a kid again. It was like, "All right, you got this dog, I got this dog," and he's affiliated with Palo Alto High School, and he was like, "Oh," I kind of told him a little bit about me and chiro. I was still in school at the time, and he's like, "Oh, I'd love to just have you out. We need an extra set of hands if you have some free time for the Palo Alto High School football team." I was like, "Yeah, sweet, man, I'm about it." So I just went out and volunteered for an entire off season and season with the Palo Alto High School Vikings.
Nice.
And I just got in the weight room just with like, Pali High is really interesting because Palo Alto is very affluent neighborhood in California, probably one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the US, which puts it in the running for, all time worldwide most affluent neighborhoods.
Oh.
But East Palo Alto is gangster. Like we're talking rock steady, like extra hood.
Yeah.
So Pali High, like the Vikings where I was volunteering, is open enrollment. So most schools were private, like Archbishop Mitty, all of these big schools, they're all private. So there wasn't open enrollment, but this one is like, so you had kids coming in from East Pali that were just hood fast, like hood fast. We had this one kid, Michael Grundy, who could not start. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say the story, but he could not start the first game of season. Grundy was 16 years old, 6'4", 360, huge white kid. And hand to God, I show up to the first game and like, you notice him on the field, right? He's massive. Like so I like walk up and I'm like, it's kind of like sitting on the sideline. I got like my little green and white Viking shirt on, Vikes on me, Vikes on 3, 1, 2, 3 Vikes. Like I'm about it. And I'm looking and I'm like, where's Grundy? And I'm like, yo, Vince, where's Mikey? And he's like, oh, you didn't hear? It's like, no. He's like, and his kid's in like the 10th grade. He's a junior playing on the varsity team because he's fucking huge. And he's like, yeah, I guess in like, I don't know, homeroom, some guy called his sister a slut and he tombstoned him into a chair and broke the kid's pelvis. And I was like, that's my guy. That's my guy. But that's East Palo Alto. So you had all these trust fund babies.
Yeah.
You had all these trust fund babies mixed in with these, some of the kids, we had kids that were pretty good. Like it was a school that's known for athletics. The two wrestlers, have you ever seen the movie Foxcatcher? About the American. So those twins, they actually wrestled at Pallyford and just being like, maybe one day. And I was just like not paying any attention. But then next thing you know, 3 years later, I'm walking across campus, across the street. I was like, man, I was volunteering as just a gym hand in that school, in this little, this little grade school. This little high school across the street. Now I'm like on campus in one of the most, well-endowed financial institutions in the world. So yeah, it was pretty cool, man. And so that was kind of like in California, that was like my not my, I want to say my foothold, but that was where I sort of,
Yeah.
reintroduced strength conditioning, and then
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
some volunteer experience and just met the right people, and job
Yeah.
opened up, and it was a pretty,
Yeah.
job interview, let's say.
So and then you got, I've seen you like work with combine, it's guys getting prepared for the combine, some NFL, like you're in there. You're not just like, I'm strength conditioning coach, it's just strength conditioning coaching. But like you're like in the trend, like you're in there training like
Yeah.
legit. Like I have athletes, I've trained athletes that are professional from provincial to professional, but you are, you're in there, guys getting prepared to sign $1 million contracts. You're preparing these guys for like, so tell me about that. Like that's yeah.
Yeah, you know what, man, and it's always the thing, like never underestimate the value of free work. It's just networking. So I started in being involved in my first combine prep before I even finished school. So it would have been 2000. Let's say 2013, 2014
So a while ago.
was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been around this for a minute, man. So
Yeah. Decade.
I had a friend of mine who we just met through a mutual friend. He worked for Sornex, the exercise equipment company. He had outfitted the OTC in Calgary, and was down in the Bay Area outfitting or respecking the San Jose Spartan, so San Jose State strength conditioning gym. Great facility for a smaller school. And I had a friend of mine just connect us, and I met with him, and he brought me into the facility, and he's like, "Oh, come out. Yeah, like I know so-and-so or whatever, just come and meet me at the gym, and I'll introduce you to the performance staff at SJSU." And at the time, it was this gentleman by the name of Gary Uribe. He's no longer there. Abe Cahill, who I worked with at Stanford, is now the lead athletic director there. Great dude, great coach. Besides the point, Gary just kind of came in, and he's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm in chiropractic college." At that time, I wasn't competitive into powerlifting, but I've always been, big into lifting weights. So
Yeah.
he thought I was an athlete of some discipline, and we just started talking. And then he had three or four guys. It was coming up on pro day and combine. Probably it would have been early in the year, let's say January, which puts you about 8 weeks out from pro days and combines. And he was like, "Hey man, like our team chiropractor pays to be on the roster. He pays like 45 grand a year. So I can't, but he's a dolt. Like he's just some guy that like uses some little, it's called an activator, but he just called it some gun." And it's like, our guys aren't getting anything from it, but we have like some prospects. So at the time it was, the big ones were David Fales, which is a quarterback, and Shane Smith, who was a tight end. And there was a handful of other guys that ended up going to the league, not as big. Fales was with the Jets and the Dolphins, and Shane ended his career with the Saints. So he's like, "I don't trust this guy." He's like, "Immediately just talking to you," and I would go in there and lift as well. He's like, "I trust you. I don't, just because you know how to lift weights." And I was like, that is a terrible criteria, but kind of a good.
Yeah.
So I just started coming in again, like for free. I literally remember, man, I drove this 91 Ford Explorer, and there was something wrong with everything. It was a fucking Ford Explorer. But I remember parking on a downgrade when I was low on gas, and my car wouldn't start because all the gas like went back. I was like, this is so embarrassing. And Gary would leave. Like, "You guys, like, yeah, I'm just taking a call. It's all good." I got calling fucking AAA, just being like, "Hi, I parked on a hill." And then so I worked with them. And they luckily Shane and Dave made it to the league. Like, I wasn't charging anything. I was just stoked to be in the room. And then going into their off season after they got drafted. So drafts are usually what day is it? Late April. Draft usually kicks off. So Fales and Shane and a couple other guys signed, and those two reached out to me and continued working with me until they reported to their teams. And then it was like kind of a weird transition period. I didn't really know what to do. It was like, okay, like I don't really know. You guys are your strength coach now, but we've been working on some stuff. And then off season come around, and I get a phone call. It's them again, and started working with them. And so it's been better part of a decade now. Fast forward, my really hands-on involvement the last couple of years. I was able to, my phone number gets passed around in really bad situations, right? So if someone tears an ACL, they get a hold of my number, and I get a phone call. Someone tears an Achilles, they're like, "Okay, this is the guy." Someone tears a pec. I had a tennis player once call me, and it's like, "Hey, you don't know me. This is how I got your number. my name is Thanasi Kokkinakis, and I'm playing in the US Open. And tomorrow I'm playing Roger Federer, but I've torn my pec. I'm just like, dog, like, I don't know who you are. Don't do it. Like, just like, let me tell you how this is going to end.
Yeah.
Right.
Sit this one out,
just,
bro.
right. Yeah. So when my bat signal goes up, it's usually like, it's dire straits, but it's athletes that know that if I say like, yo,
Yeah,
take a
they
lap.
trust you. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like I'll fly guys close to the sun. That's the biggest thing. They just come to me because I'll give them the answer most of the time they want to hear.
Yeah.
With just a few caveats. Like my answer is rarely like, hey, we're not going to do this. Like you got to sit it out.
Yeah.
And then if I say that, it carries some weight. So had an athlete, very, very, very high profile, actually just won a Super Bowl last year with the Rams. Succumbed to an injury a few years ago, tore his ACL. Now his coach, his trainer was familiar with me. He got my phone number. We met up in Miami. Was able to get him in with a team that I work with in Toronto that does a lot of regenerative medicine stuff. Dr. Adil Khan's done some stuff with Fuad. So I work in tandem. Adil was just out here in Dubai. And we're kind of co-managing a few people. But anyways, long story short, very high profile athlete. We got him into Toronto, got him sorted, worked on his rehab, and like very well connected. So I was down in Miami, and this player, years later, his player hits me up. He's like, "Oh, you should go check out my friend's gym." His friend being Brandon Marshall. So I was like, yeah, I was living in Miami at the time. So I would just go in and it was just like, hey, let's say week pass here. So I just started training there. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then his trainer was like, oh, like, here's some of the guys on staff that I know. You should go introduce yourself and tell them you know who I am. I was like, cool. So I just like introduced myself to a few people. And then Brandon started recognizing me, not recognizing me, he thought I was a player. And then we just got to talking and that off season I worked with him, he was retired at the time, was thinking about coming back to the league, but I trained with him every day for about 6 months.
Nice.
Trained him. And at the end, we started training together.
That's awesome.
And then was working with the combine class. That's would have been not last year, as the year before. We would kind of work with the combine class on assessments and just like some correctional intervention, exercise programming, fatigue management stuff. And then luckily, obviously with the pedigree of those kids, a large percentage of them made it through combine and got drafted to teams. And they came back for, we did pre-OTA training or pre-training camp. So we work with them into pro day. That was a COVID year. So the pro day or the combine didn't happen in Indianapolis. We hosted our own. So got those kids prepped. They all did really well. We actually had the biggest bench press and the fastest 40. Nice. Jalen Twyman with the Minnesota Vikings, I think did 225 41 times. And Eric Stokes, who's a D end in Green Bay, ran a 4.32. No, 4.23. Stokes is a rocket. Fast, 195 pounds, 6'2", probably like the fastest. Someone did a 4.22 was like 5'6", but he wasn't in the league. But so that went well, and so prepped him for the regular season. And like my role, like I worked alongside Mo Wells, Jordan Bush, Big Ross, Troy Jones. So like I was just like, hey, you guys got strength and speed. I'm just the guy to like see the things that we might be missing, and like okay, he's got a hamstring pull. We're not going to sit him. We're going to do this. He's got this issue with his foot. We're going to get him in the pool. Yeah. Like I was just like a kind of a corrective exercise Swiss Army knife. And I did a lot on the treatment table as well. And then, fuck man, it's crazy to kind of recap all this. Yeah. And then this last season, HOA, there's a guy you might know, Yo Murphy. So Murphy got in contact with me. He actually came out to one of my seminars in Toronto, was a big proponent of what we were doing. So he flew me out to his facility, which is now an HOA. And then we did his pre-combine class. Then I went down and I did the combine class down in HOA in Weston at Brandon's gym again. And now we had a really tough class come in, like a very beat up. These kids are running 2, 3, 4 years at the college level. We had we had kids with hernia during a season, surgery, hernia other side during a season, surgery, and then they're coming off and they got to go to their pro day. So really like a crazy amount of it was fun. It was fun. I got these lists 2-3 months in advance, and I can go and dig into the Southern Alabama Gazette and find the injury that he had in Pop Warner football when he was 8, and then start to put all these pieces together and really kind of money ball it. Honestly, it really become money ball in the program.
Yeah.
You know, if there's enough data on position specific injuries from like a frequency or a magnitude perspective that, so I had a dossier. I knew these kids backwards. So I was sitting down with them and it's like, I know your grandma's dog's name. And we had like a real like beat up class and they crushed it, man. Like Sky Moore, like he was slated to go. He's a wide receiver out of Western Michigan University. And Sky went from like projected late in the fourth to early in the second.
That's awesome.
Like from his pro day. Yeah. It's just a great group of kids, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like the long and short of the combine, but I've been around that for a minute. It's been crazy. Picking up now because I really found like a level of fulfillment and enjoyment working with those kids. Almost, I don't say more with the pros. The pros are fun. The pros are they're just wilding out, man. Like, so they're doing well, like financially, they're all good. They're all friendly. Like, they're all, but it's just there's a different level. Like, you know, the wolf on the side of the hill, these combine kids are, you know, they got some stories, man. Everyone, you know, just has a tear in their eye when you see them, like they get drafted and then they buy their grandma a house or something like that. Like just the best kind of kids.
You're I'm just like listening to you talk about this combine and stuff, like I blew all my opportunity then. Like coming out, I was, you know, it's holy names coming out. I had 5 Division I scholarships and lost them all. Didn't pass the clearinghouse twice. I was, you know, my OAC marks weren't high enough to, you know, to offset my SAT. So didn't pass the clearinghouse twice. That was it for me. And then I just went on this mission to try and upgrade and try and make it. Hindsight, I was too old by the time I even, you know, got to the point of, you know, playing at St. Mary's. So, but it's like I get that. Like I understand, like, you know, the fulfillment you get from having like having kids have their dream. Cause I know it feeling like it was yesterday, like getting a letter and being like, oh shoot, this is possible. This can happen. Someone's, you know, telling me that, you know, I can be somewhere. Then, you know, so I get that. And then when you have them actually make it, you're the missing piece they needed to get to that level where now they are, you know what I mean? Like that's incredible, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever part you can play, right? You get kids who grew up playing football, like learning how to play football on tennis courts. These are the toughest fucking kids you've ever met in your entire life. Like we had a kid beat cancer. We had a kid lose a child. Like you would not believe the hardships that these kids go through. And it's it's propped up on a dream. And it's like, you know, if you can 0.5% increase in likelihood that they're going to make it, like you're about it. You lose sleep. I'll fly in from wherever. I'll sleep on the floor of the gym, like whatever it takes, man. And for whatever small role you can play, it's worth it, man. Because when the kids sign their, you know, entry level, still, it's so crazy because we detach pro sports from like regular professions. Like league minimum first year, I think you're looking a little under 600,000. Which is fucking insane. It's like, what's a specialized surgeon make? Not
right.
That. So not that. And so it's cool to just be out, like, you know, because all of them, without fail, like they're so grateful for everyone who's given them that opportunity, and just to see what they do with it right away. Because it's like, I know what they do with it after all the debts are paid off, and like not like actual debt, but like after grandma gets a house and mom gets a Range Rover, then like once they get their big boy contracts, then it's like, again, it's fun and you're happy for them. But like if you're trying to train or work with guys and in between sets, they're going to joyride some guy's new Maybach, you're just like, it's not the same where it's like you have their undivided attention when they're trying to get to the league.
Exactly.
5 years in, 6 years in, you got a couple rings, you got a couple commas in your bank account. Maybe you got like a nice endorsement deal. You know, you buy your third Ferrari in 3 weeks and it's just like, I don't have your attention. I'm just going to put on the baby and you get to train, and I'm just going to go fuck myself. But, yeah, it's fun, man. It's a lot of fun.
How much did how much did you feed off those kids, like, you know, their dreams or that energy to like get to, you know, how much that play a role in you becoming a better coach, or you raising the bar for yourself? Like was there a specific moment, like when you're, you know, getting some of these kids hearing their stories and being like, shit, like, you know, and making you want to just be like that much more excellent?
Yeah, I think it's a mutual understanding that the stakes are always high. Right. And it's everything. Right. And I think you learn that peripherally through being around pro athletes for a long time. I've been lucky to have like some business mentors who operate in a very similar level. Anyone who's like the best in the world at anything,
Yeah.
they operate like the stakes are always high.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There is not, I don't want to say there's not like an off switch, but like there's just, it's not off or on. Like they're always
Go.
off. It's not even on there. Like that's not even an option for them. So I
Yeah.
think that's something that, understanding that with them, it's all high stakes. And I think I started to treat my like patients, athletes, whatever, prior to that, like it was all high stakes. So it was something that I resonated with, because a lot of people say I'll elevate my game when I get to that level, but you can't get to that level without elevating your game.
I totally agree. Yeah. I always say that
was,
go ahead.
oh yeah. I just think that was it for me, was the recognition of like, okay, because a lot of people struggle with, and it's like really like a hot button topic on social media, I found late in my feed, is like imposter syndrome. Like, and I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, or a psychiatrist or whatever, cognitive behavioral therapist, anything. It's just, for me, I had no doubt that I was the person to be in the room, because prior to being in the room with like, I don't know, we had Chris Olave come in this year, who's like, probably number one prospect wide receiver. He ran like a mid 4.3. This guy can create space in open field as a wide receiver coming out of Ohio State, like no one in the pros. Like he'll be a household name. But like, just to watch him carry himself, I'm like, I recognize that. Like, I like Tim Cook in my office as a 24-year-old kid, CEO of the biggest liquid asset company in the world. So you get to watch high performers, and then that was kind of my recognition, was like, because I treated the soccer mom or like the Silicon Valley nanny like she was a Chris Olave or a Leonard Fournette or a Stephon, whoever. It was like, that's the reason that you can then get in the room with those people. Like that's what punches your ticket and nothing else. And so I think a lot of people on the come up, they're like, they do the bare minimum, and it's like, no, like that's not going to get you to the point where you're working with these people.
Yeah. It's true, because it's one of those things where it's people are so like they fantasize about the results and not like the process. And the process is what sets you up for the results and being able to carry yourself further and further, like yourself. Like you can't, like our coach will say, don't wait to act like a pro to become a pro. Like you got to be a pro now. Think like a pro, act like a pro, live as a pro. So when you become a pro, you've already had that instilled in you. You know what I mean? So I get that like completely. Like it's you freezing up.
You're good.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was one. You froze a couple of times, but anyway. But I get it. Like it's cool to watch. Hear that from you. So like you're well in your career. What is like who would you say is your bread and butter clientele?
But right now it's football. It's NFL. Yeah, like that's it. I don't have clients that aren't in the NFL. It's weird, because I never played football growing up. Rugby kind of got my foot in the door, but it was really like, and I think part of it gives me, because I mean, now I'm a fan of the sport, and I know a little bit about it, but I only follow like guys I know.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I remember meeting some people. I'm like, wait, who are you again?
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm so-and-so. Like, are you fucking joking me? Like, but like, the thing is, they're never like, the really good ones are not like that at all. I remember like meeting Jarvis Landry for the first time, and I was like, what's your name again? And he's like, and like, he was so nice. And then now looking back, I'm like, God, I'm such an idiot. Like, I'm such a moron. This guy, and like, how nice is he that he's just like, why is this guy here? Like, who invited this guy? But yeah, right. I mean, it's not even Target. It's just, I've fallen in with just social circles that's where we run in. Like, and obviously like the HOA crew, Mo Wells, Jordan Bush, and then now Yo Murphy. So it's just like a little bit of baseball with Yo. So, I mean, I was down there, and again, we were prepping combine kids, but you're having conversations with like Luke Voigt from the Yankees, and Yo kind of branches out, and he's got some guys in different leagues and soccer and stuff. But for me right now, like if my phone rings, it's NFL. So, I mean, I was getting my freaking head tattooed, and one of my guys called me, and I was like on FaceTime with him. He's gonna sign with the Cowboys. And so, yeah, I love it. I think it's interesting. It's such a, it owns a day of the week. Like it's such a crazy sport as
Yeah.
it like
Yeah.
clashes with popular culture. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it right now as far as
Yeah.
personal clients. That's really
So,
the bread and butter.
so just basically you're in Dubai waiting to coach your NFL guys.
Yeah. So the
So what do you
plan right
like?
now
What are
is,
you in Dubai for? Like, why are we in Dubai? And we,
oh,
the NFL's in the United States, bro. So I'm like, what's going on here?
yeah, it helps actually. Most of my travel in the first half of the year is in this side of the world. So I mean, I was in
Okay.
the UK the last couple of weeks. I'll be in Belgrade on Thursday and fly to
Yeah.
Serbia. So that's kind of, it's just easier
Yeah.
to have it on this side of the world. But I mean, I love traveling outside of work
Yeah.
whenever I can. And
Yeah.
here's like a pretty interesting jumping off point for that. But I mean, my work is, I show up for 2-3 weeks at a time. So like early January, kind of did my whole 2-3 weeks of assessments with the pre-combine guys, and then there's just like, here's the plan. Like, this is the injury this guy has. This is the progression we need to see. Keep me posted. I don't need to be on the gym floor at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. Like I would, and I'll be on the gym floor to do assessments at 5 a.m. and I'll do like, I'll be another set of eyes. But once that assessment's done, it's like, I know the deal. I kind of really, if you're good at like a quote unquote like a diagnosis, which most of a good diagnosis you're going to get from a good history. And as I'm reading through the Southern Alabama Gazette, I know their history, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just looking to confirm a few things in person. And then it's like writing very detailed periodization to help get these kids healthy. That's honestly all I do.
Yeah.
It's like the power, the strength, the speed, the agility, everything is there. It's just that most of these guys are self-governing in the sense that they're like limiting their output around certain injuries, and that's kind of like my skill set, is understanding what those compensations are, and then how to reroute that nervous system's path of least resistance. So like, you got a kid that the hernia guy is like, dude, he's the wide receiver from DT, like the nicest kid in the world, and it's just like, we had him. They're like, we might not even put him in this draft. We might try and get him in next year, because he should run a 4.5.
Yeah.
But right now he's probably going to run a 4.8 with these injuries. It's like, yeah, it makes sense. You got 2 sports hernias and 2 off seasons.
Yeah.
Like, I had him do pool periodization. I had him in the pool.
Yeah.
He didn't touch a weight for 6 weeks. And he shows up and runs a 4 flat or a 4 flat.
So
like that's what I need.
Yeah. So, well, it's funny because you brought up Paul Quinn's name. So when our second defensive coordinator that showed up at St. Mary's, Dan Laramie, used to work alongside Paul Quinn. So when he came to St. Mary's, he brought all of his Paul Quinn stuff to us, like injury prevention, assessment, everything. Like we were just overworked and under recovered. Like we were injuries left and right. And he came in with it. And that's what kind of got me into the, injury preventive side of training and whatnot. And so I remember like hearing that, I'm like, that makes sense. Cause like my thing is, for when it comes to my coaching, it's like just fixing people's ability to actually train properly, so they kind of avoid all that. And if they do have pre-existing injury, I don't have your expertise, but I've been through the process enough to like, give you a little bit of information enough to get you to make the right decisions. Like, hey, Johnny, my shoulder's hurting, I can't bubble with this and that. What should I do? I'm like, go to physiotherapist, go get assessed first, and then get that, and then come back. We'll work on some like extra stuff to work you can do, but stop working out. Like, don't try and work past these things. They're going to put you out even further. So it's I think it's cool to see that, not even just for like the professional athletes, that it's just like it's everybody that needs to have that knowledge or attention to injury prevention, or just proper for like how much of like when you get raw athletes, because like I know you're talking like these athletes, your athletes are athletes. They got speed, strength, where they can run. They come out of the womb and they can do these things. How much of these guys do you have to change their overall like form, technique, breathing, all those things? How much of that comes into play when you get like raw athletes?
That's a good question. I'd say the biggest thing that I change is the exercises they do, not how they do the exercises.
Exercise selection,
right? So I think understanding what comes with the constraint of exercise selection is the number one tool that I use when it comes to like load management and fatigue management.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you based off position what exercises a lifter is going to be bad at and which exercises a lifter is going to be good at.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, so I kind of came up with this principle, and I've adapted. I didn't come up with it, but there's like one of the biggest issues in strength and conditioning is what I call the uncanny valley. So the uncanny valley is a term is like a concept that borrowed from like a roboticist, like Japanese roboticist in like the late 80s. And so the uncanny valley explains in robotics and like building robots, the human being's likeness or dislikeness for something that looks very similar or dissimilar to it. So like, stay with me, because this matters. If you're in strength and conditioning, this fucking matters.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's start off with like the bottom of the graph, where it's like something that doesn't look like a human is a robot because it's so dissimilar to us. So like I'll use the analogy, but like Wally's just like, I don't know, like a microwave with eyes or something. Like it's not anthropomorphized, right? It doesn't have legs. It doesn't have arms. It's just sort of this thing that wheels around on a track. And you're like, okay, there's like a story behind it, but it's like, you don't feel any type of way about Wally. So as we plot along this graph of likeness, so Wally's kind of like, doesn't look like a human and we don't really like it. But then as we move up or move across the graph where it's like, it looks more like a human and the y-axis is how much we like it. Let's say like Minions, right?
Yeah.
Minions, oh my God. We watched Despicable Me a few weeks ago and Tess was about it. And it's like, yeah, they're cute little things, but like they're a little bit more anthropomorphized. So when I say anthropomorphized, it means like more like human beings.
Yeah.
So like, you know, they're like wearing denim or overalls, but they're still like yellow pylons or whatever the fuck, right? One has one eye, one guy is, but like they're clearly not, they're more us than Wally.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're clear. So it's like, and again, so we plot along this trajectory and it's like, okay, we like Minions more than we like Wally. I think that's pretty universal.
Yeah.
And we keep going. Then it's like, maybe we get to like the Simpsons. Simpsons are a good example because like they're very, you know, they got 4 fingers and like Marge has like 5 foot tall blue hair and whatever, but they're still, you know, they're yellow. It's not really, they're more like us than Minions and they're more like us. The Minions are more like us than Wally. So we keep trending on this direction. It's like, oh, wow, like the more things look like us, the more we like them.
Yeah.
And you could maybe throw like Family Guys, maybe a little bit more like in kind.
Yeah.
But then you hit like Polar Express. I think that's the one that I've drawn to the most. Or A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's kind of weird because let's go with Polar Express. I feel like that's more like it's trying to be human, but it's not human.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't really like this. So it's almost as if we like plot along this graph and we're ascending. We go Wally, Minions, Simpsons.
Yeah.
And then it kind of falls off. And then it's like, it falls off and it's like, well, what? I don't get it. It's like close to us, but it's not us. And the brain goes, fuck that. And it's, I forget there's a number assigned to it. It's 75, 80% likeness. It drops off. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, if you see like a real human being, it's like, oh, I love human beings. And then it kicks right back up. And it's like, it is as much like us as we can be. Yeah. And we like it. Yay. So we've kind of, but there's a valley there. Yeah. Right? So that dip on the graph of likeness to us and likability to us is this valley where it's like, I don't fuck with Polar Express. It's too weird. Oh, human beings. Okay, great. Yeah. So it's like we have Simpsons on one side, us on the other, and then this weird depiction. So that's like a true of any like robot. Like if you watch iRobot, you're like, whoa, that's kind of creepy. They like look like us. Yeah. Kind of starts to fall in that valley. So when it comes to like the original question, people are probably like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Strength and conditioning has fallen into this habit of looking to emulate things and positions and shit on the field in the gym. And then those that like taking a golfer, like I have a friend of mine, Adam Dunn. He works with Patrick Cantley. Patrick is a fucking incredible golfer. This kid won like, I don't know. He won the FedEx and the BMW championship 2 weekends in a row. I think he walked on 24 sheets in 7 days. So he's doing well. The last thing Patrick's going to do is hook a Titleist up to a Life Fitness cable stack and fuck up his entire swing. Like, because that's it's too much like what he does on that like our adaptations don't like it. Because now if he puts a broken golf handle on a cable and puts 30 pounds on it when he swings a 430 gram club, now he's going to have to like he's probably going to have to use more of his lats, his QL, his like less of his hips, because it's going to be so dominant through the upper body. So it's like that, then adaptation starts to fall off, right? And then the swing becomes worse in the field. And we see this a lot with like, especially in my world, like the rehab physio world. It's like, just let the gym do things that the gym is good at doing, and let the field do things that the field is good at doing. So you can have a level of predictability of what exercises people are going to be bad at. And I think just sticking to exercises that are gym things and not necessarily bringing, the field things into the gym things, because you end up training in this uncanny valley where both of the adaptations begin to drop.
Yeah. That makes complete sense, because I see it all the time. Like all the time. It's not, and it doesn't work. And I remember just playing football and then trying to like, something didn't make sense, in the gym, like, like strapping stuff to your ankle and trying to do like, high knee running stuff, trying to get your hip flexor strong. It's like, well, that's not how it works. Like you're just gonna slow down your damn hip. You're gonna it's not the same thing.
The punching the landmine, love that. Every time a UFC fighter teaches themselves to punch slower by using the landmine, it's like no, what are you doing? But it's such a prevalent thing, because like I have a friend that works with some Major League Baseball pitchers. His name's Kyle Rogers, and he has this phrase that he's coined, and it's like, it makes sense if you don't think about it. And that's like 99% of the people. They like, if I'm some layman's person, I'd be like, oh yeah, like he punches when he fights. So he's kind of punching, but with a weight in his hand. It's like totally fucking up the force velocity curve. Like we're not going to be training in the range that we think we're in. It's just, So that's kind of like my thing is, I abide by the principles that govern how we move in the gym. And if I can make them better there in positions that they're bad at, because again, it's all load management. Like I know every single wide receiver, like wide receivers and running backs, what are we going to have to do? Well, running backs are probably going to have to accelerate from 0 to 10 yards. Wide receivers are going to be more interested in how we accelerate from 20 to 40. So it's like, top end speed. It's like all these guys are all gas and no brake. So what is gas and brake in a gym? It's like every single wide receiver I know that I've worked with, the first exercise, we do we start with passive, unloaded on the table. We kind of see what limitations of range of motion we take into consideration, blah, 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 history, injury, all that shit. But by the time we get training, at a certain point, I'm going to put them in a front foot elevated split squat. And I'm going to watch them trying to drive their knee over the toe. I'm like, no, go down. Go forward. Go down. You always go forward. You've been going forward. Go down. Like try and move your center of mass backwards. And it's like, you can literally, and this is where training and learning, like I've learned, I run an education business. So I spend a lot of my time researching and studying how people learn, because that'll help me teach better. Right. So like coming up with all these seemingly stupid analogies help things click. And that's, but it's a byproduct of me just trying to figure out how people learn. And then with my training, I use more principles from like pedagogy, like education, like teaching someone, then I actually do biomechanical principles, or at least it's like 50-50. Because it's like, well, if he needs to learn something, like he needs to do it to some sort of technical like competency, but he needs to understand why he's doing it, see himself doing it to a certain degree, so and do it repeat it enough so that the skill doesn't depreciate, but repeat it often enough so that we can accrue enough skill over a week. Right. So it's like when I studied for tests, it was like, well, I was a bad student, so I just crammed the night before. But I'm having these kids do these drills 3 or 4 times a day for a handful of reps. Right. And then I'm doing that, every single day. So they can just practice good practice. So like it becomes predictable when you see it enough, and it's all pattern recognition, and you have enough data on the position that they play to know where they'll be good and know where they'll be bad. But to answer your original question from 17 minutes ago, it's really like, it's not necessarily technical stuff. It's more so just constraining their movement by very specific exercise selection.
I do. Like it's funny because it's I watch you a lot, and because I'm a student. I'm always gonna be a student, and there's always ways. My clientele isn't as exotic as yours. You know what I mean? Like, like I get your regular. Like I have a few that are that they're professional athletes, but then a majority of it is your general regular pure person, right? So for me, it's like it's that thing. It's like I need to, like a guy. We had a consult yesterday. He's like, I don't really know what I need. Like I've been on YouTube, and I've been blah, 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 this and that and the other. And I'm like, you need to be taught how to do what you're doing. Like you can read all the stuff you want, but if no one's bridging the gap to that lack of knowledge, you're gonna do the same shit over and over again. So there is that level of like education and obviously like what they're doing in the repetition where their body can finally adapt to something because everyone's trying to learn something and it doesn't stick. Your body's never gonna adapt to anything you don't stick to. It can't. Repetition, adaptation, then you actually see, changes and whatnot. So it's cool because it's very similar to like, I'm not necessarily doing the same thing, but the same, I would say, like principle in the sense of like you got to teach like, any athlete you get, no matter what, if they don't know what they're doing, you can tell them a gazillion times, they're gonna be like, I'm just gonna be an athlete, and that's gonna take over, and then I'm not, I'm not hinging properly, or I'm not getting the proper knee flexion, hip flexion, all those things. Like, yeah, it's cool to hear that. You know what I mean? I think I'm on the right track. you know?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people over cue and they under constraint.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I can't fix someone's position by like moving their foot or like moving their hand,
Yeah.
or cueing their foot or cueing their hand, it's a wrong exercise. Everyone just tries to reduce the load. Mine, like again, I have all these little sound bites because no one has an attention span, so I need to teach in fucking tweets. I need to teach in 140 characters or less.
Yeah.
So like one of these little like sound bites that I've kind of like the uncanny valley and all that shit is,
Yeah.
don't reduce the load, regress the pattern.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a hard and fast rule that I live by. It's like, if someone can't, get into a position or the position breaks down at a specific like intensity or weight or load, I don't just go lighter. I just I regress the pattern. Right.
Yeah.
So if someone can't back squat, and a lot of my football players cannot fucking back squat, and when they get heavy, it breaks down, and it's just, they have these really strong adductors because of the way, they run in the anterior pelvic tilt and they can't fucking get their pelvis in a position to use their glutes, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm not going to back squat them. I'm going to front squat them. And if they can't front squat, I'm going to goblet squat them. And if they can't goblet squat, I'm going to counterbalance squat them. And if they can't counterbalance squat, I'm going to counterbalance squat them with their heels elevated.
Yeah.
Like, and again, that's the same issue of not being able to shift their center of mass back. But it's like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, chest down, shoulders back, knees open, like too many cues. Too many cues.
Yeah.
I didn't constrain the movement enough. There's too much shit to learn here. So I'm just gonna like regress the pattern to be like, can you self-organize well under a front squat? No? Okay. Then just keep regressing and shift the center of mass, like the applied load forward, so they can shift their center of mass back. So that's like a big thing that I think a lot of coaches miss, is like, don't reduce the load, regress the pattern.
Yeah, I'd say, and I think that's my strength conditioning background has me in that mindset when it comes to coaching. It's like, it's not like, I'm not a reduced load. I'm just like, let's find a pattern that works for you. Like, like not everyone can back squat. I'm the first one, like, you can't back, you don't have to load your spine on the back squat. Let's put you in position so you can be, successful. So it's going to be a front squat, not a front squat. If you don't have the mobility or range of motion to show, then we can goblet squat. That's like literally the pattern, the regression I take. You know what I mean? Like everyone's so stuck on, they got a back squat or whatever exercise it has to be. And then it's like, oh, it's not working, so let's just, let's change how we're moving it. It's like, no, just find another regression so they can build up and progress after, get like knock them down a couple notches so they can build themselves back up. That's like, it's huge. Like a lot of guys who are watching this, whoever is a coach or whatever, these are like, this is golden news, golden fucking words from Jordan here. It's dope. Yeah, it's cool. So I don't want to take too much more of your time, but let's do this. Let's just like, let's take this person is a coach or whatever, just starting their career out. You want to go talk to yourself, your beginner. Let's say, like, let's go back before you started, before you're on this journey. What 5 things or whatever, it doesn't be 5 things, anything you would tell somebody beginning their journey as a coach, or just even the beginning journey as like an athlete or a regular Joe just going into, lifting, or their journey to, everyone's trying to change their physique, whether you're trying to be a better athlete or just trying to look good naked.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell that person, or even you starting out?
Yeah. So the thing, and this is always tough, right? Because I've been in situations where like I'm looking to get advice from someone who's at a place that I want to be. And I've had this question asked, and I don't like any of the answers, because it's like, for whatever reason, if you want to be like a nomad that works from his laptop kind of, and then works a lot for a few weeks and then doesn't for a long time, then it's like everything I did got me here, like kind of a butterfly effect thing. So I'm not like, if I had to go back and change what I did, I wouldn't be where I am, sort of thing. But if I had to look at some things that I did that I think got me to where I am, I think it's funny. Have you ever been to Treehouse? Remember the bar Treehouse on Outlet?
Oh, yes.
Right. So I used to be.
Whoa,
right, let's bring it back. Let's bring it all the way back. I remember being, and this is gonna sound a little bit counterintuitive. I remember working the door there, and one of the owner's fathers would come in. Super nice dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he's my boss's dad. I should remember his name, and I just think that's kind of like common courtesy. And he reiterated to me that he came in like, I don't know, once a month. And the second time I saw, I was like, oh, so and so, like, hey, good to see you. Like, come on in. And because it was like an old, and everyone in line was like, what the fuck? Like, why is this old guy going in? And I was like, that's the owner's dad. Like, he gets to go in. Fuck you, wait in line. You haven't taken it. Get out of here. And he's like, he goes like, I like you. You remembered my name. That's big. Remember that. And I was like, and I always kind of, and it's funny because they're talking about Jarvis Landry and I didn't know his fucking name, but I remembered his name after he told it to me the first time. So that's like one thing. Let's just like little shit. Like remember people's names, look people in the eye, work for free when you can. And still, like, I still do a lot of work for free. Yeah. But it's like, I charge the clients that I work with a lot so that I can work for free more. So I think don't underestimate the value of free work would be another one. Yeah. I don't know, call your mother would probably be another one.
That should be the
just
one,
little yeah, right. Just I don't know. Just little shit. Like, I think it's all relationships. I could trace every single job I had back to like a really good relationship that I had. Yeah. Like with a friend or a client or a patient or whatever. Like, if I pull on a thread long enough, it's just, it's relationship. And like, be passionate about what you're doing too. I think that always helps. Yeah. Like, I can trace our relationship back. So we met through Fuad. Yeah. Now I grew up, but I was much younger than Fuad, and he was very scary, and he still is very scary. But I know him now, so I can chat a decent amount of shit. But I remember where Fuad and I really got connected is I DM'd him years ago when I came back for Christmas, and all I wanted to do was train. Right. And I think that's always like, if I had to have like a overarching thing that's seen me further in my career than anything else, just like to work out. Yeah. It's really like, that's the crux of all of this. Yeah. Like, I can push aside some linemen and be like, here, move, give me this. I'll show you how it's done. Like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And it's like, that has buy-in there. With Fuad, like, I didn't have like an agenda. So it's like, I just want to work out with you. That's all I want to do. Like, I don't want to take a photo with you. I don't want to blast it on IG. I didn't put it on my story or any bullshit like that. I was like, hey, dude, like, kind of in the industry. I'm like, I'm back for the holidays. And I just DM'd him and he's like, yeah, dude, come by. And we trained at the old Lifestyles on Central. And it's funny, afterwards, I convinced him to start a podcast, and thank God he did. Yeah. But it was just, we were doing a Fuad workout, man. And it was drop sets and it was supersets. And I was like, I'm going to fucking die. But it wasn't anything more than that. So I think like having good intentions, which sounds so stupid. Like, why do we have to say this out loud? But I think a lot of people now with social media are like, hey bro, like, and I'll get it, especially in Dubai. Like, Dubai has a very strong influencer culture where you just get hit up like, hey bro, and they like, you want to do this challenge thing? Like, no, I don't. Yeah. I don't. I love training and you don't, and fuck off. That's why. How's that sound? Yeah. So I think that for me, above all else, is like, just be about it. Yeah. And you can't fake it, right? Like, especially if Fuad's a classic example. Like, if I came in and was like, hey, I brought my camera guy. And look, there's a place for that. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, yeah. But it's like, build the relationship first. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think a lot of people undervalue relationships and like don't have expectations either. I think that's another thing. Yeah. And that's tough. But like, a lot of people like, well, I'll build a relationship and then I'll get what I want from them. It's like, no. Like, people say that comparison is the thief of joy or whatever that is. Yeah. But I really think it's expectations. Yeah. Like, if I'm nice to someone and then I'm nice because I want them to reciprocate, it's like, that's you're in it for the wrong reasons, right? Yeah, it's not real. So I think that's, a bit of a muddled list, but I think that's kind of like, I don't know if that's even, that's a good list. That's a good. Yeah. It definitely resonates with me, and it's exactly, that's my value. It's my thing. I like all that. Like, I don't reach out and do collaborate. Hey man, want to collaborate? Just do something. It's like, let's just, like, when I walked into Fuad's place, I had no clue you're gonna be there. You know what I mean? And everything happened organically. I had all my camera stuff. I could have brought it down there. I was like, nah. I'm like, I'm just gonna train. Just want to work out. Let's do a workout thing. Same thing. And then you're there. It's like, oh, cool. We're just gonna work out. And it's like, hey,
later, like, hey, maybe one day get come on my channel. Whenever it works, whenever it's available, whenever it's organic. And I think that's a lot of things people need to hear is like, you know, build a relationship because you actually want the relationship, not because you're looking for something else, because it gets obvious. And you see it, I see it all the time, especially on YouTube, you know, it's like you're doing a collaboration with someone you don't like. I know you don't like them at all. And like, you're just doing this for, and I'm not about that, you know? So it's everything you said needs to be said louder, like literally.
Yeah. And it's funny, like sometimes you might not know, like, but be willing to leave it on the fucking director's floor. Like I had so many YouTube videos or podcasts I just never released because like halfway through the episode I'm like, is this guy fucking for real right now? This is not. Hey bro, I thought the episode went great. When is it gonna go live? So it's not.
Yeah,
it's not. Sorry, bro.
Like it came out. Oops.
Yeah. No, it's so many excuses. It'll be like, the file got corrupted, the government or whatever. Like I just protect, because that's, I mean, reputation is everything. Maybe that's another thing to like add to it.
Yeah,
right?
man.
Like once that gets tarnished, protect that thing with your fucking life, man. Like,
yeah, man.
Don't put yourself in a position where it can be tarnished, because you only get one crack. And this industry's small.
Say it louder.
And people are, you know, and rightfully so. I think that people should be relatively unforgiving, where it's like, you know, there are lines you just should not cross. And you know, just make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. And you know, if you start collaborating with someone who's like a grease ball and you know it and you keep doing it, it's like that's going to reflect bad on you. And I've had that, man. Like I've had people that I thought were one way, and then I got to know them, and then people are like, you know, you guys like ripping off a bunch of people for some money. And I was like, I have to distance myself. Like that looks 100% bad on me. And it's so I think that's a big one too, is protect your reputation. Yeah,
it's the only thing, like I said, it's buddy, like it's when all is said and done, like I don't want to be morbid, but like when we're dead, your money, everything stays here, and your reputation. So, you know, what are people going to say about you when you're gone? Like, is your legacy going to last enough where it's like spoken in a good, you know, in good manner on a positive field? Or is it going to be like, you hear the name, you're like, oh, you're like, that's a big, it's like reputation is, you know, like, what are you doing? What do you value? Like, what is like, you know, what kind of impact are you trying to leave on someone? So it's cool. Like, it's not about views and subs. It's about, you know, connections and, you know, impact and value, you know what I mean? So it's, dude, I mean, I think it's because we're from Windsor that we're so alike, you know what I mean? Dub City, right?
I think so, man. It's so funny. The Tess is from Windsor as well. I remember we were casually at we were at like a party in Miami once, and I just overheard her use the phrase kneecap someone, like in just a casual, and she had to explain, like, you know, like, like you just kneecap them. And I was like, oh, my heart.
I know she's from Windsor too.
Yeah.
Which
from like the good side of the tracks.
Where she go to school?
Love, you're in Sandwich, right? Sandwich.
Oh, Sandwich. Savor.
Yeah. Good. I always tell people that Windsor's got 3 sets of tracks, and I grew up on the bad side of one, that you grew up on the good side of the best one.
I started downtown, you know, West Windsor, and then made up to South Windsor, and then left.
Oh yeah, she's out that way. Her folks are out South Windsor way. Yeah, I was East End. I joke, but like, you know, Riverside was a half decent place to grow up.
Half decent. The East Side's
half decent. Yeah.
That's all right. Well, dude, man, it was an absolute pleasure. Dude, we gotta do this again. Maybe I'll be out in Dubai. I do want to actually get out to Dubai to actually literally just, you know, get more traveling and stuff. But
you got a spare room.
Hey man, don't be saying that easy. I'll literally book my flight and get out there.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
I love lifting, so hey, we're good.
I'm serious, dude. We got a spare room. If you can catch us in town, man, by all means.
Yeah, well, we'll talk definitely for sure. I'm stuff on the radar now for sure.
And if you find, I'll be in Toronto for you know, a handful of weeks this year as well. If you find yourself out at Pier, we'll
let me know when you're down, because I'm back and forth there a lot, and then I'll be then I'll be back in Cali, and then Texas, and then, you know, trying to follow those fests. I'm trying to get those training camps going and stuff. So yeah, it's cool. But yeah. Definitely.
Man, we'll do it. Sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's just wrap this up, man. So appreciate it. But guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share. You know, we come with the tell, it is transparent, vulnerable truth. For coaching, JonniShreve.com. Say all the good stuff anyway. But guys, check out Jordan Shallow's prescript. coaches, non-coaches, get people starting their careers and just really want to get an actual like legitimate course from someone who knows. Like you watch this, you know he knows his stuff. Really good, really good. Especially you guys are getting Canvas Pro or something like that. Might want to get something a little better. Just saying. Anyway, guys, hit those descriptions below for those discount code, promo codes. Help change up or sale it for the better. And follow Jordan on Instagram at Muscle Doc. You're at the Muscle Doc. That's it, right? Just
Yeah,
muscle.
the _muscle_doc.
It'll be under here anyway. So follow him. Good one to follow. And on YouTube as well, too. Muscle Doc and RX Radio. Great podcast. So if you guys want to get a wealth of knowledge, make sure you guys follow him. I'm following him. I put him in high regard. So anyway, that's it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, guys. You know what it is. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. And you gotta say keep dream chasing too. You gotta say keep dream chasing, Jordan.
Do I gotta what?
You gotta say keep dream chasing.
Keep dream chasing.
There you go.
Done.
All right.